Not safe for work. Not safe for work. Hot people, hot jobs. Not safe for work.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Not Safe for Work, a podcast about hot people with hot jobs. I am your host, Chloe. I'm so excited to talk to our guest today. And I say guest plural for the first time ever.
Yay!
On Not Safe for Work history. I have two guests who not only do they have a company together, but they also happen to be twin sisters. So I'm really excited to talk to them a little bit about their company and everything that they do, but also what is it like working with your siblings? So I'm really excited to bring in today's guests, the founders and owners of Twin. That's What I Need, my favorite fashion company, my favorite clothing brand, Izzy and Alicia. Isabella and Alicia, welcome to Not Safe for Work.
You know me, so like here's the difference. It's like
I literally said right before we started, I'm going to say Isabella. And then I just, it's like, you've never been an Isabella.
I know, I've always been Izzy.
Especially because most people meet the two of us together, and I don't call Isabella Isabella.
Well,
I call
that's
her
how
Izzy.
it happened,
Exactly.
actually. Because so my history of meeting the twins, so when their company was first kind of revving up, you guys were in Artisan Fleas in Williamsburg, and I used to frequent that like pretty much every single weekend. If you don't know what that is, it's this like weekly flea market in Williamsburg, Brooklyn that has like the most iconic, cute little artsy stands and knickknacks and accessories, whatever. But there's also a bunch of clothing companies.
Totally.
Yes.
So
And that's
we were
where you guys-
actually, initially when we started Twin, we never really thought about how we would physically have the product out in the world. And Artisan Fleas has like a vintage section called Regeneration. And because our clothes are not vintage, they're sustainably made. So they use like dead stock, upcycled fabric, but they're not vintage. We weren't sure like whether or not they would let us in, and then they did, and we were all excited because like we always shopped there, and we love all the vintage sellers. They're like incredible people.
Because I think when I first found you guys, I think you were the only like
exactly
we
were
make
the only non-vintage
multiple of
brand.
something.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had
But I
sizing.
immediately fell in love. Like there was a period of time where like I discovered Twin, and their stuff is made for just like people with normal bodies. Like I feel like I've always my whole life struggled to fit into clothes, and it's like for the first time ever, your clothes are so adaptable and adjustable, but also just like you're actually thinking about people outside of like the size 2 model.
Totally.
Because I am not a size 2. I'm a size 16.
I mean,
So-
and talk about that. I mean, like, how does that impact kind of like the way that you lead your brand and design your products?
Well, maybe we should tell you what Twin is first.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry. I
We're,
got
like,
too
ready to
excited.
get
okay,
right. We're jumping
Everyone
in.
take out your pen and paper.
Well, because we're like, so we know each other so well.
No,
and
no.
and
and this, you're only like my second or third interview that I like genuinely know the people like
Oh, really?
already.
Aw.
So it's harder to interview people because it's
Totally.
like we've got all this background context
Totally.
that
you don't
I gotta
even
remember.
there's
to
like
you guys
things
in.
that you already know that you're already listening to that you're like, oh, why doesn't everybody already know this?
Yeah.
Like I know this information.
Okay,
you should know
so
this
so let's start
information.
from the top. Alicia, you're on. What is Twin?
Yeah, so Twin is a gender inclusive, size inclusive, ability inclusive, sustainable brand. And for us, we use the word sustainable in a broad sense, but we call it actually conscious consumption. And what that means is that we are very conscious about how we're making the products and also how we're getting them to you and also how we're selling them and then the life cycle of the clothing. So it's kind of a big overarching thing.
What does that mean? Like, how are you conscious about how you're making them, selling them, getting them to you? Like, tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we only use dead stock material across the board. So what that means is dead stock is material that was made for some other purpose, not Twin, and we find it on a local market that's adjacent to our manufacturer, and we make our clothes from it, which means that we have a very limited supply of fabrics. And what that means is all of our clothes are made in very, very small quantities. But that doesn't mean they're super expensive because we actually, like, as I just said, we're an inclusive brand. And one of the things that we care about is financial inclusion. And so some of the hangups people have about sustainable clothing and consciously made clothing is that the price tag is pretty high because it's using very difficult to find materials sometimes or difficult to process and make. So we actually cap our margins to make sure that like people can afford our clothes and actually have financial access to all of the values that we talk about all the time.
I love that. And I think one thing that's really cool about too, the way that you approach that is not only is it that you've got these fabrics that you use that are already here? So like you use them and then once they're gone, they're gone.
Literally.
But you keep the silhouettes. So like every season, the fan favorites, the, shirts that, or, dresses, whatever that everyone's obsessed with, you iterate on the feedback that you've gotten, which is one. And two,
We love feedback.
yeah, you guys are so receptive to feedback, but like you make the product better and then it just like comes in more patterns and, textures and whatever. And so like it's the fan favorites do continue to exist, but
It's like an evolution. That's how you always have to think about it. And it's not about an identity that like is formed and there's like, it is what it is and it stays that way. But like as twins, because we're just so different.
Yeah.
And we're Geminis, which is just even more
I know
chaotic.
that's crazy that you guys are Gemini's twins.
There's actually like 5 people here right now. There's the two of us, our like other Gemini version of ourselves, and then there's you.
Yep. And then there's Maxim behind the
Hey, Max.
Oh
the
my
studio.
God.
Shout out my friend's basement.
So there's just a lot of when you're a Gemini, you're very playful and you like to touch a lot of different identities and nobody can tell you who you are. Nobody is going to box you. And so for us, how we see twin, and also it's just to do with, it's a learning experience. I mean, when we started this business, we brought our own expertise into twin and we really honed that. And I think as we grow as a company, it's really allowed us to just, it's the always listening mentality. So we like to hear.
So Izzy, I'm interested. What's your pitch on twin?
My pitch on twin is imagine the world that you wish existed and then operate as if it does, which is scary for a lot of people because I think when you start a business, especially in a post-pandemic, post so many things that have just happened in the last few years, it's like, can we just breathe? Imagine a world where like you had all these values that you really wish people, like you believed in the spirit of community and you believed that people had the ability to care about each other and that they were invested in each other's growth and their potential and the potential of everything around you, and really thinking about the ways in which we are active in our lives as like consumers and people and community members. And like I think that's something that actually unites us all, is that we're very community minded and we very much care about
For sure. That's
leaving it
definitely
a better place.
I mean, and that's like I just said, like you guys are really receptive to feedback. Like I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a mentality that I talk about a lot on the podcast, which is like if you feel something's missing or you wish something existed in a different way, like you can just make that happen. Like it's up to you. And so like for you making this adaptable, sustainable clothing line, like people talk about that all the time, and you were like, okay, so why not? Let's do it.
Pretty much.
Like literally. For instance, like one of the things, like when I came in, Chloe immediately looked at my top and was like, that's not twin. And it is. It's upcoming twin. So,
but I know your entire line. So
Totally.
I was like, what are you wearing?
well, no, exactly. And so
because we're all wearing twin today, obviously.
well, listen, you're not.
I appreciate it, guys. It's like a real.
Izzy's designs.
So Izzy's the designer.
I am the actual.
Oh yeah, let's
Okay,
set
so
that
for
stage.
context, so all of these things that Alicia is talking about, that she's touting, that she's like speaking this gospel about the like ethos of twin, unfortunately all comes from inside my brain.
Not unfortunately, very fortunate.
I guess very fortunately for us.
it's all in here.
I just really think that there's like, if you start something, why not start from a place of goodness? Or why not start from like, we
But
can just
you're the
build those
designer of
values in.
twin.
I am the designer
I was
of
gonna
twin.
say, let's start there.
Yeah,
So Izzy,
So
you've got
I am
more
a
of the
selfish
creator.
designer.
You've got, but like if we were to give one sentence, like what are your two roles at the company?
I'm the business twin. She's the design twin.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like the upshot of the whole thing. And basically, I'm also the fit model. What that means is like my body is not a typical fit model body. Typically, a fit model is like a 00, and no tea, no shade about a fit model being a 00.
You're
That's
not
great.
just a 00. It can go from a 00 to a 4.
Wow, a whole 4.
A whole 4.
But I am definitely not. I certainly don't have a difficult body to fit, but I have body considerations, and so does Isabella. And so one of the reasons why people are like attracted to our clothes and buy them over and over and over again is because we always start with ourselves in mind. We have body considerations, and then from that place, you're able to better fit and understand the considerations that other people might have, whether they want to embrace their humongous boobs, which is like my choice, or conceal them. There's definitely like room for all of that. And
I have every curve and swerve imaginable on a that a person could have on a body. So for me, if it looks good on me, guaranteed it's going to look good on everyone else, because it's everywhere. Like
Well, the boobs thing too, like
Totally.
as someone who's a 32 double G.
Yeah.
Which there is not a company in the United States, only internationally, that I've been able to find that starts at because like they all start at 34
Totally.
if you've got that big of a cup size.
Tiny waist, big titties.
Yeah, tiny waist, big titty erasure.
It's a club.
Yeah. So, anyways, with that, I felt that I felt very, my
Seen.
body was very, seen in the clothes that you guys make. And that's like why I immediately that's what started it all
It's
for me.
nice to be able to wear things and not being like, oh, nope, can't try that on.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. And it's like that moment of recognition. It's okay. It's really about the reason why Twin exists is like, it's that moment of recognition that so many people feel when they come into Twin, that's the secret sauce. It's like, there are so many people from all walks of life with totally different bodies who come in and they're saying the exact same thing that you're saying and they don't even look like you.
Yeah.
And that's like the
No, and I
best
see it
part
because I
about
sit
it.
there and I like work from Twin sometimes and like
We love
watch all
it.
the people. Okay, I wanna talk more about Twin, but
Yeah.
before we get back into Twin, I want to talk about like both of you
Yeah.
individually and like where you came from and how we got here. Wow, this is crazy having two different people to interview. All right, we're just gonna go in the
Yeah,
same
we
order.
can do this.
Alicia, let's start with you. Like, tell me about your past, all of
Yeah.
your other businesses. Like, give me the quick and dirty of like what you were doing up until Twin.
So I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm a lawyer. I used to work in investment banking. So the timeline of it, when I say it, people think I'm like 800 years old. Like genuinely, people are like, with the hair, they're like, you're
I'm
a wizard.
so inspired by you.
Oh, please. I mean,
I had to live through it. It wasn't
Yeah,
quite so
she's so
inspiring.
traumatized.
I was like, I don't need to go to law school.
Alicia is like the first like person I met when I like knew I was going to quit my day job that I was like, oh, that's who I want to be when I grow up.
that means
Me too. Like me too.
I know you're the younger sister.
I know, but I
Of the
felt that I
twins.
completely agree. Like actually, Alicia was telling me this yesterday. She was like, I always ask people or tell them what I thought of them on the first impression that I
Yes.
met them. But I've never asked what people think of me the first time they meet me. And so it's interesting that you're kind of diagnostic of from meeting Alicia for the first time.
it's pretty. I'm a
Because
big
I would agree.
I'm a big capital C communicator, and I always tell people exactly what I like. Oh, when I met you, I thought you were this gorgeous, like energetic, tough person. My read on you. And so
Gorgeous.
like tough in like a strong, bold way, not tough in like a like impenetrable kind of way. Anyways. So my background is when I graduated from both of us went to college together.
We
We've
did.
always lived together.
Where'd you go to college?
We went
On.
we went to Barnard College, and I also went to Oxford. I was a varsity athlete. I was a rower, which is a painful and I don't recommend it sport, but
It
amazing,
was
very
cool,
fulfilling.
very sexy.
So I rode at Columbia and I rode at Oxford. And when I graduated, I never wanted to work in finance, but I was walking down the street and a friend of mine was like,
Wait, also,
Oh, sorry.
you guys
Yeah.
are from Canada, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
from
yeah.
Canada.
We're
Okay, cool. I
Canadian.
just wanted to
We're from
contextualize.
Toronto.
That's important context because you're not from the United States, which I feel like is
so weird.
I just feel like it's important
Yeah.
to tell people, even though you would think.
We also don't really have an accent. And then now that we've said that we're
Yeah,
Canadian,
it's gonna
you're
come
going to
out.
hear
no,
it.
because you do sometimes have an
Yeah,
accent.
for
Sorry.
sure.
Okay, so you went to Oxford.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
I interrupted
no,
you.
it's totally fine. So
a long
originally,
story.
we're both from
I've heard
Toronto. We went to Columbia, to Barnard College. I rode at Columbia, rode at Oxford, and then when I graduated, I basically became an investment banker and did derivatives negotiating, which is like a thing I could talk about if you want to, but I don't think you want to hear about it. And basically,
I still don't understand it.
from investment banking, I kind of always knew I wasn't going to be an investment banker for the long term. And I was at Morgan Stanley, and basically I was laid off, and they paid me out my salary.
What year was this?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I literally can't. I've been
No,
working for
don't even
myself
try.
for so long.
No.
It's not like a hide my age thing. It's a look at my LinkedIn.
We are
Like,
Yeah.
33
No,
years
totally.
old. It is nothing to be
yeah.
ashamed
So
of. Proud and
basically,
33.
Everyone's gonna hear that and be like, "You're 33. Are you
I know.
fucking kidding me?"
no,
It's good.
it's wild.
It's
And
good.
so,
Your 30s are great. High recommend.
but then basically, after I was laid off, I met somebody at a party who had a digital art tech company. My other co-founder, Zach. And he was like, "Do you want to be the COO of my tech startup?" And I was like, "I don't know what a COO is." Like, I really didn't know. And he was basically like, "I think that you should do this. I think you're going to be great at it." And I started and I tried.
What did you
And-
learn a COO was?
Basically, a COO is operations in some ways is kind of a catch-all for being a producer. Like, if you're a good producer, you'd also be a good COO. And the way that I approach it is like, you want to build systems that are really good and that don't need you. And so that is essentially what a COO does. They build systems and they build the structure of a company. And it turns out that is my skill set. Like, my superpower is turning things into businesses, which is how I ended up with the next 10 years of my life being serial entrepreneurship. So I've run everything from consulting businesses. I've run like building internal operating systems for nonprofits. I have done misinformation research using the Twitter API for the Fortune 100 companies and the government.
That was the scary time of our lives.
I've just done a bunch of different things. And what I realized is like, firstly, anything can be a business. But the question is like, do you want to be the product? Do you want to build a product? Do you want to have systems? Like, what do you want? And so building out and using different business models has actually become the thing that I enjoy playing with. And I jokingly call like, that's my medium is business models, which is so douchey. And I don't recommend saying it again, but like, it is what it is.
No, whatever.
Yeah,
Sounds
for
hot.
sure. It's true. I am a business.
If you're
people,
watching the
hot
YouTube
dogs.
right now, like you see that I have like cartoon heart eyes just like popping out of my face. Like, oh my God.
A woman that can handle her
I'm
own.
like, wow, this is just everything you're saying. I'm like, I've got goosebumps.
It's
also, these are all my favorite things to talk about too. You know, I'm like,
I know.
I say ROI at least 10 times
Listen.
a day.
Oh my God, favorite word.
Listen, KPIs, ROI, gotta love it.
Yeah.
But basically,
Conversion.
ROI means return of investment.
Yes.
So
KPI means key performance indicator.
the lawyer part of it, basically, when I was working in investment banking, I was doing legal contract negotiating, but I wasn't a lawyer. And so as I was building all of the startups I just mentioned, I was also in law school. So I did 4 years.
Where?
At
Oh.
Fordham Law School.
So you also then went to Fordham.
I went to Fordham Law School also after Oxford and Columbia.
This
And
was,
then-
by the way, so this all happened at the exact same time.
So when
you're
people-
hearing
yeah.
about all these different businesses, and what you're not understanding
I was in
is that
school
she
the whole
was
time.
in law school at the same time as she was running these startups. So
well, that's what I figured because she's 33. So when else would it have been?
Totally.
it makes me nauseous to
I
think
know.
about. Like, actually,
I'm like jazzed.
it was really ugly. It was not cute.
If ever anyone has any questions for me about like all of the ways in which all of these things work together or the ways they didn't work together, like I have
You have to come by the twin store
Yeah.
though to ask them.
219 Mott Street in
Because
Nolita.
we live there.
We're
Yeah.
there all the time and
we
we
don't
talk
actually
about
live
it.
there, but it feels like we do.
But I don't really want to talk about myself right now that much because we still have to get to Isabella. But the point being that like when I was in
You
law
don't even know.
school, as I was graduating, Isabella basically was like, I think I want to start a business and I think I want to do the thing that I've always wanted to do, which is a clothing line. And I was like,
No, I'm not No, I don't want to do
absolutely
this.
not. I don't want to help you.
Are you
This is going to be a
crazy?
nightmare. All the reasons why people don't want to work with their siblings were all the reasons that I gave her. And then I started advising Isabella because I felt like that
On another
was-
project that I was working on.
Sure. But I was advising her and we kind of started working together and we've always worked together in some respect, but then kind of twin just started as I was working on it with her, I just realized that I absolutely loved helping her make her dreams come true. And I'm not that nice of a person.
Wow.
I am not that
It
nice
was
of a person.
I literally did just get goosebumps. What do you feel like? I mean, it sounds like that piece was a big piece that like helped you get over it. When you think about like zooming out like logistically of
Yeah.
like what has allowed you from your perspective,
Yeah.
and I'm going to ask you the same question of like what has allowed you to be like, what are the things that you practice that allow you guys to work well together?
Firstly, being in therapy together.
Mm-hmm.
Super helpful.
I recommend it. If you're of a co-founder, definitely take some sessions on how to be able to communicate better.
Well, we have two dynamics, right? Like sister roommate dynamics and then business owner partnership.
And you guys live
dynamics.
together as well.
We do.
Oh my God.
Roommates, business partners.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Were you living together
And friends.
before this?
We've always
always-
lived together.
Oh
I
my
won't live with
God.
anyone else. I'm a difficult person.
I
She's a pet rock.
like whatever.
Wait, but what about when you were at Oxford?
Yeah, that's the only time I've ever
It was
been
a
away from
disaster
her.
for me and great for her. She
I had the
thrived
best
and I
time
just
ever.
like crashed and burned.
I
Oh
loved,
my God.
I loved
Yeah.
living alone. But anyways,
She's great.
Oh
not
my
the point.
God.
But what allows us to work together, I think the biggest thing that I underestimated was the ways in which we complement each other. And so it turns out that just by virtue of having spent our lives together, we naturally complement each other. And the fact that we're always together, our references are almost one-to-one.
Mhm.
And so we can get through conversations, ideating, creative direction, building businesses, building
I mean,
stores.
I see it. It's so like anyone who's in the room with you guys, it's like you're speaking a different language. I think of like, you know, the phenomenon of like Mary-Kate and Ashley twinning of like you're wearing things that are like there's some cohesiveness, but like it's totally different vibes.
Totally.
It's actually Izzy and Alicia twinning. Like that's what it is. Because you guys really are like you complement each other so yin and yang, but you're you know built on the same foundation, but fundamentally actually so different.
Yeah, I think the hardest
That's
thing
a really great way to put it. That's
100
so elegantly put.
Slay.
With a new American
All right.
Isabella, please.
You're
God.
out. All right,
Dun, dun,
let's
dun.
talk about what were you doing up
What
until
was I doing
Twin?
up until Twin? So funny enough, my degree is not, everyone's like, oh, where did you study fashion? I studied art history with a concentration in fashion. So
Okay.
I was really interested in the history of it and all of the ways in which that manifested in art. When I look at a painting, the world makes sense to me. So I worked at the Met for a heck of a long time, about 6 years. I interned there, and then I got to work on this really cool project, which Alicia was also involved in, of course, where we would put on parties for upcoming exhibitions for college students
At the Met.
At the Met.
That sounds cunt.
Free,
It
free parties,
was.
access to the curators. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It was called the College Group at the Met. I don't know if they're still doing it or they're revamping it, but we heard whispers. So if it does exist and you are in college, this is one of the greatest
Yeah, it's awesome.
experiences I've ever seen because you just basically have free reign of the museum after hours.
That's cool.
I mean, it was wild. It was one of the greatest. And it was funny enough. So the first experience that I had was working on the McQueen exhibition, which was in 2010. And I met Andrew Bolton, who's the head curator of the Costume Institute. And my God, was that man inspiring. And married to Tom Brown. So you're just like, check fashion designer husband, check chic wardrobe, check cool job. And you're like, okay, this is the dream. But then when I actually went and applied for jobs at the Met, the salary that you made was just, I was like, how can anyone afford to do this? Amazing job, but like, how can they actually live?
How can anyone afford this is what it is in that industry. Yeah.
You have to have money.
yeah,
Yeah,
like you
no.
have to
So
be Nepo baby vibes.
I don't know if you know the history of the internship. They were auctioned by Sotheby's. They were actually a thing that your family auctioned that you got to win an internship at Sotheby's
to work for free.
And so
For the experience.
original internship.
So basically you had to pay for it.
That's what it was. Exactly.
what it
You
was.
paid for it. So that is where internships, that's why
amazing. It's a great
internships are built
scheme.
out the way that they are. That's why they were for so long.
Like
the
when
way
we
that
were
they were.
interns and like even our first time fashion internships, it was always free.
Yep.
And our parents would always be like, why are you doing
Well,
this?
I
because
did
other-
one unpaid internship in college. I had 8 jobs and internships in college.
Yeah.
And the one that I did that was unpaid was for Cosmopolitan magazine.
Exactly.
But
I was there for 3 days though, and I was spending about $20 a day to get there, lunch,
Yep.
whatever.
Just
And-
20? That's impressive.
Well,
that's low.
because I was like really good at being frugal in college.
Awesome.
But then the law firm that I had an internship at the previous summer, this was my winter internship because I was
Yeah.
insane.
no, we had internships every semester. I get you. Don't worry.
we're on the
speak
same-
You match
language.
my freak. Anyways, so the law firm, like I bumped into them at their like holiday party, or I was talking to them. They're like, "Oh, come back and work for us for the winter." And I was like, "Say less," and quit Cosmo the next day.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is such a waste of money. And for what? To touch shoes that touch Scarlett Johansson's feet?
But like for somebody
Yeah.
that really does want to be in the industry, that's the
Right.
slow, what you're describing is the slow, steady crawl up the fashion ladder. And every single person that is in the fashion industry, unfortunately, does have to go through it to a certain extent, unless you are somebody who has either, horseshoes up your ass, or you've met somebody that's like changing your life, or you're incredibly like just insanely talented and a genius recognizes you and it's like, the birth of creation all over again. Like but those scenarios are very few and far between. And so it's just like, what are you left with?
Yeah, but the interesting thing about Isabella's,
But
Oh, sorry.
So to
Didn't
go
mean
back
to
to
editorialize.
when after I worked, I know it's like where have we gone from this?
I know, no, you're good.
But so after I'd worked in art and or I thought I wanted to work in art, what I really realized was like, okay, I do love art, but I think that it's a way that it can always be a part of my life and it can like be in my career, but it can't be the main focus.
Yeah.
So I went into fashion. I'd always really, really wrestled with the idea of being in fashion because it is such a tough industry. And as I said, you have to start so young. So we started at like 18, 19. And I was like, nope, not young enough. Should have started at 16. Like when I showed up at Barnard, I met people
Yep.
who out the gate, freshman year, first semester, had that like closet Harper's Bazaar internship. And they were like, where are you interning right now? And I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing anything. And so it was like immediately, I'm like, I must intern somewhere. And so back in the day, like you just were trying to get as much experience as you can because those names and those companies were like pretty much the best chance you had to like land that job. And if you weren't somebody who had extensive number of internships under your belt, by the time it came to, I need to get a job in this industry, it's tough. Like, and you're competing with everyone internationally, especially in New York City.
Yeah, the biggest thing I think that I like noticed about, and like I don't I don't know how much you want to talk about the individual experiences you had working in fashion, but like one of the really hard things was watching somebody that I believed, because I've always worked alongside Isabella in a capacity as her sister, saw somebody who had incredible ideas, creativity, chutzpah, and just I would see the like, oh, like I got dismissed today, or like people weren't listening to me and I had this great idea or I wanted to contribute, and like watching fashion kind of like through different jobs with different small businesses, huge corporations, like all sizes of fashion
I like
brands.
almost don't want to name names or anything just because like the tea could get real hot. Like one of the people, I used to work for one of the largest modeling agencies in the world. And so you can imagine all the people that I've met. I've been to Buckingham Palace. I've met multiple families, multiple members of the royal family, both formally and informally. And I've had like
the Daily Mail is gonna like
the Daily Mail's gonna Isabella did booty bump King Charles.
Yes, I did. That's something that happened in my career. So I have like these crazy stories.
Yeah, but you ended up in the Daily Mail.
No, gosh,
Oh my
never.
God.
I would,
oh my God, can you imagine?
She would love it.
I read the
She
Daily
would
Mail
love
religiously.
Alicia
It's my
reads it,
I need trash just to like. So
I just
It's
can't
how
get
you
into it.
unwind.
I'm like, I know these people. It
yeah,
scares
but
me.
to kind of like, I think that for me, the thing about watching
the
that
industry
of fashion was watching Isabella feel like kind of brought down a peg consistently, and then when it came time to like starting Twin, because it was essentially like different types of fashion jobs, every type of fashion job. I mean,
I've pretty much worked in every facet of the fashion and model. And like,
what was the last
industry.
thing you were doing before you started Twin?
I was working in the modeling industry. So I was actually scouting digital talent and like finding people on the internet from all over the world and trying to help them like monetize and brand themselves and become their own businesses. It was my favorite. That was the thing that made me realize that whatever I end up doing, that I really want people to walk away feeling like their life is improved in some way by meeting me. Yeah. So that was.
Do you feel like you have like made that sort of an impact with Twin?
Of course. I do. I can say that because I meet so many people every day who like, I see the fear in their eyes when they come in the door that they're not going to find something that's going to fit them or that they're going to like, or that it's going to be too expensive, or there's something that's going to go wrong in this experience because they're in a store.
Shopping is hard.
No, shopping is hard. I always say that you sound like Catherine Cohen, the person who has a podcast, Seek Treatment. Or not, Seek Treatment with
She's
Kat
a
and Pat.
comedian.
Yeah,
right?
she's a comedian.
I always
say that about her, but or about you and her sounding alike. But it's like funny you just said that because she's got like a whole bit about like crying in the like Nordstrom's dressing room,
like who
because
hasn't?
nothing
Oh my
fits.
God.
And I'm like, wow, no, that's like literally what you're trying to prevent.
Well, so for instance, like
I've never cried in your
there's
dressing
just
rooms.
nobody. I mean, people have cried happy tears at Twin, but no one has ever cried sad tears at Twin.
Thank goodness. Like hopefully
we
never.
we have space for tears. Like we have a big long couch. You can
if
sit.
someone comes in and they're genuinely sad, we even have space for that too.
So true. But
Totally.
like one of the things, like when people talk about dressing for your body, like yes, size inclusion is usually the first thing. Like things not fitting is usually the first thing. But then like gender identity is like the second layer to that, and is something that we create a safe space where people can come with whatever they're trying to represent and literally apply our clothes to make their vision of who they want to be a reality. And that is a very sensitive and delicate thing. And we take that very seriously.
Well,
So-
I've noticed that with the way that like you have the different ways that you can like snap and unsnap something
Totally.
or, cinch something or not cinch it, and how you use like, it's all the same clothes, but the genders of the models vary.
We don't, for instance, like we shoot everything on everyone.
Right. Yeah. And I noticed that. And I love that.
Period.
I think that's iconic.
But a lot of people look at a dress and they're like, why are you showing that on somebody that's male presenting? And we're like, because if someone who comes in wants to wear this,
It's a body is a body.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the gender
Clothes
is.
don't have gender.
There
Wear what you
are people
want.
who identify with some of the people that we have that are models for various reasons. That
Totally.
it might be that, oh, this person has the exact same waist size.
Totally.
Or, oh, it looks like this person has the same shoulder width. Or, oh, I look so similar to that person that I can identify with being in that piece.
Yeah.
And that's really all you're trying to achieve with these photos is like people are trying to imagine what they could look like in the clothes.
just to like put the fine point on it, in our store, which is in Nolita, you should come visit us.
Oh my goodness.
We have actual editorial images like on the clothes, so
Econ.
that like when you're picking up the clothes, you can see them on
A card.
different bodies. So like
that's so helpful. I just
wild.
noticed like websites starting to do that of like, I have no idea what something looks like. As someone with huge boobs, like if it's on a normal sized model, whatever,
Yeah.
like the standard model, I'm like, I have no idea what this will look like on my
Totally.
body.
Yeah, but even when you have a model that is curvy on the website, it's also difficult to tell because there's some people whose bodies, when you're photographed, are just photographed really. Some people, like, I'm really, really curvy. When I am photographed, I look the same size as Alicia.
Fuck.
I am.
She is snatched.
I know how to pose.
I don't.
So like, I know exactly the ways.
Everything I've learned has been from Izzy, like correcting. Like I remember
Oh
the
my
way that
God.
you told me how to like put like low rise pants on
Yeah.
and like how to adjust it, and I have never gone back.
It makes
Totally.
so much sense though. If you knock it in the front, but if you have a booty, like if it's higher up in the back, then you create that effect and your waist looks super tiny. It's logic, no?
No, I mean the math is mathing.
The math is
I want to
mathing.
ask you the same question though of like how do you find yourself working with your twin? Like what allows you to succeed?
Oh, Alicia's the absolute best. So like the inspiration that you feel from her and the energy and the like, I feel like I can because there's this person that's like has that level of like efficiency and that energy that's very productive. She's very productive. So it's like when you're around somebody that's that productive and organized all the time and really advocates for themselves, it really does inspire me to advocate for myself. It's just nice to have somebody who lives their life a very different way that I do and that like we're able to complement each other. And but I've always wanted to work with Alicia. That was always the plan.
Is this your first time like working for yourself?
Yes, this is the first time I've ever worked for myself.
And like what like how's that?
I think
How are
it's
you
the
liking
way
that?
that it always should have been. And I think the people that I've worked with in the past would agree.
Why do you say that?
She was a fucking horrible
I was
employee.
a horrible employee. I was chronically late, chronically, truly. And like, I like to take my time with the work that I do and I really put my heart and soul into it. And also I'm somebody who likes to be on the ground when they're starting a project. So like very, like one of the last thing I was doing, like I designed a haute couture. I like helped launch a haute couture line was one of my last projects, which was so incredibly wild. And just, I'm like, where the heck was I even going with this?
Well, I think the point, like,
Yeah.
just
Let
speaking as her
Alicia finish her
sister,
thought.
like, for instance, not, we do this a lot. It's like the finish your thought
I'm
vibe.
like,
But
what?
for instance, like when I was working for someone, I was always like, how do I show up as the best support to this thing? Like, I don't,
No, and I was like, how do I shine in this
Isabella's
situation?
always
I was ready to
been-
innovate.
Exactly.
And
I love
make
that.
it different. And how do we?
and I think like with one of the reasons why I mentioned like watching her in fashion and watching her career was really hard for me because I love her and I know all of the great things that she can provide, but also like sometimes people don't want to hear how fucking genius you are. Sometimes you need to just be like, yes, I will do that. And that's what a job is. And Isabella was not great at that. And
Well, like one of the things.
but in Twin is really able to do what people weren't able to do for her.
But
and
also
actually-
now you're just like proud of it. It comes off.
Totally.
in
But
that
for
way.
instance, like not only proud of it, but also like Isabella was
you talked
essentially
about feedback before, and I would say that like being open and being communicative, like our team really has a say in what we're
Totally.
building. They really are invested
I
in
know.
it. You can feel.
I literally showed Izzy a picture of something that I saw in LA and I was like, can you make this?
Yeah.
And it's like in the
We're
next
working
collection.
on it.
I also like really like the notion of just like a day job in that regard didn't work for you. Like you're
It
chronically
was
late.
so
Like I think so
bad.
many people feel that like
I just need to find a project, and it's like I had to be so passionate about what I was doing that it didn't matter what it was that I was doing, but I had to be so truly invested that everything that it was like I had to pour my life source into it.
so if you're sitting at home and you're like, I hate my job, I'm always late, this doesn't fulfill me, I'm miserable.
Nobody's listening to me.
This is the
like,
whole point of this
I'm so
podcast is that
demoralized.
like you can do things other than a 9 to 5. Like if that's not working for you or you feel that you're meant for something else, or maybe you haven't even thought about it, but like all of the signs of you like being chronically late and feel like you want to die, maybe you're now realizing it's not working for you. You can do something else.
But I wouldn't change those experiences, whether they were working at a startup or in the corporate world, like for my entire existence. Like, for example, I worked in plus size fashion, and it was truly there that I began to love myself because I met women specifically who like not only in the models, because like they were absolutely spectacular, not only just the influencers, but the people that I met every day. And we all looked so similar because we were all curvy and like we owned it. And it was so empowering as a woman back in, and this was in like 2018 when body positivity was really at its heyday. And I was so inspired by the diversity that I was seeing that it really made me believe so strongly that like if there is enough energy and momentum and belief in an idea that it can like spread. And it's just like if you keep that message strong and going, like you can make it like instead of it just being like a moment, it can just become the status quo.
Totally. You can change the world.
And for what it's worth, all that experience that you get at like your boring day job or the things that you do but you don't know are right for you.
You collect those people.
Yeah, and you collect information and knowledge. Like I literally like everything I do, I run my business like a tech startup because I've worked at so many tech startups. And, you know, I have like 25 software tools that I use, you know, like these things that keep me organized, on track and efficient. I wouldn't change that experience for the world. I'm so grateful for it. And I'm glad that I got to the point though that I was like, I can use this for good.
For sure. I think that the biggest thing for me though, like having come from a male dominated, like you just said tech and I came from finance and law.
And mine was totally female driven.
Well, you know, I'm just talking about like the experience that I had working in those environments. It really, on the one hand, I do think that you like learn that there are some places that are like, oh, the work culture really doesn't suit me. And that's fine. And you have to survive sometimes in those environments because you need the money. Like I needed my job to be able to afford to live in New York. That's how I did it. Like the reason we are able to run Twin and how we founded Twin, we did not raise money. That was my savings. I used my entire life savings from all my corporate work to run this business. So we have never taken a dime from anyone. And what that has meant is that we are building this business on our own terms and now creating an environment, a community, and a workforce that reinforces the values that we have.
But I think also on that note, and I love that, and I think it's important to remember that, like sometimes you do have to work. I think it's also important though to do those mental check-ins and evaluate, I'm making a sacrifice right now. I'm working really hard to save this money for whatever I'm going after, or am I settling? Am I comfortable?
100%.
Yeah.
I think one of the things like about working at all, like working corporate and going back to it and why these experiences are also so valuable is that you're learning on someone else's dime. In the beginning, when you're starting out, you don't have all of the tools you're learning. And sometimes it's really great to like learn from like a corporate structure that already exists, because from there you can see what tools they're building and start to question, what else can I build? Yeah. It's like you kind of have to know that framework in the beginning and sort of plug in and
have health insurance while you do it.
Indeed.
I have some questions for y'all that I want to make sure to get through.
Please. I know we can talk forever.
I know literally
and we do.
These bitches can yap. I know when I see you guys, I'm stuck there for I have to carve my whole day out.
You can't avoid that.
I knew we need to go somewhere where we can just like sit and carve time out and just like spend it and be like, we're good. Okay?
No, it's amazing. I love it. What did each of you want to be when you grew up?
I'm going to run for office. And I want to do public service.
And you still are?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what you always said?
Yes.
As a child?
Yeah.
I said fashion designer.
Period. Per.
No surprise.
Run for office in the United States?
Yeah. I'm a U.S. citizen.
I'm not.
Going to the airport with us is fun.
It's really bad.
That's crazy. Hottest part about your job?
Ooh. Free clothes.
That's so
I love it
real.
so much. Oh my God, being able to like create something and then wear it and look amazing in it is such.
I love when you guys go to like a gala and you're wearing like a matching cohesive outfit.
I plan all that. I incorporate that into the collections each year.
I mean, I can tell. Sorry.
I would say the hottest part about my job is getting to tell Isabella what to do and having her have to do what I've told her to do.
I let her do it though. I think that you've always meant
you've always
you're
meant
like
to be
the
a CEO.
And COO, and you're
she was
the
always meant to be a
Exactly.
CEO, and I let her CEO.
Well, when we were scheduling this, I was like, well, we want to check with Isabella first. And you were like, no, I run the calendar.
100%.
I was like, wait, what? But I was like, but what if there's like some personal thing? And you're like, nope. I'm in charge. You said I'm in charge.
I am in charge. I love being in charge. That's fucking awesome.
I thought that was really cute.
I have no desire to be in charge.
She's
I have
like, fucking give me take the lead, please.
I have zero ego in this whole in the whole stake of this. Only what I mean is that like I genuinely enjoy what I'm doing so much, and there's so much love in this that it's like whatever it takes to like make it happen, it's so worth it, because it's like the empowerment that you feel of being able to like see the effect that you have on people in such a physical way is like.
And I feel like, well, I'm making an assumption here. So you tell me, like, is it because you work with your sister do you think that's why you're able to be in that mind space? Like, because you already love this person?
I think it allows me to be a lot braver than I would have been, because I think when you have somebody that you can gut check with in the background and be your crazy little gremlin self with, then you can go to the world and be like, yes, I am strong woman. Watch me go through
like
this.
you can be your true unique self. Like you don't have to mask at all. That's
well, there's also somebody that
it's trust. It's like boils down to trust.
I totally trust Alicia, like 150%, 110%.
150%, 110%.
You know what? 150% doesn't
I
exist.
think it's probably higher than that.
It's
honestly.
probably higher.
No, I think it is, yeah.
200%, 210%.
Biggest misconception about your jobs.
I think the biggest misconception about being a fashion designer is that all you're doing all day is creative. And I know that sounds like really obvious, but I can't tell you. In my mind, I am the non-problematic version of Jeff Bezos. And I interview
no association at all with that balding man.
But like in the sense that like I am running Twin, like we are going to be the biggest thing on the planet, and you have to have that mentality. But aside from that, I have seen so many students and we interview 40 people for every internship. Like I am militant about interviewing and all of that. And it's like we have the best interns in the world, best team. But I feel a lot of people
paid.
We pay everybody, of course.
Except for yourselves.
Well, fucking of course,
yeah. You know, we were having this discussion. You're like, so how much do you make? And I was like, that's so cute.
Well, it's complicated when you run a business, as you well know. But
Well, I'm learning that now as well.
totally. But I think a lot of people think it's creative, and they don't think about all of the flexibility and hustling and the things that go around in the back. And the number one thing that has allowed us to not like frankly lose our minds is having a group of other people like you, like all the other business owners we know who literally we check in and are like, are you dead? Are you dead? Like it's really chaotic, and it seems like it's really creative and fun, which it is. But that creativity also means you're constantly exercising flexibility and creative problem solving. And that's not, I think, what people think when they think creativity and fashion.
Right.
Creativity like manifests itself in a very different way when you're a business owner, as opposed to like strictly doing one section of like a job in a company. Like,
do you think creativity is the biggest misconception though?
Oh man, I mean, we're pretty real about what we're doing every day.
No, but I mean, like, what people.
But what do you think? Like, what do you think people think about
when
your
you were like,
role?
I want to be a fashion designer. What would you tell yourself? Like little Isabella, would you be like?
I knew what I was getting myself into. So like for context, so like our father in the 90s was a fashion designer. He doesn't do it anymore, but he was. So like it was definitely like we saw remnants of it. And like I always thought that it was like you saw somebody walking up on a runway show and that they were bowing at the end.
Right.
And like you kind of always, I mean, and one day I hope I do have one of those moments. Like
You will.
You kind of
Fashion shows kind of fucking suck.
They're
Okay,
not
no
really
offense.
necessary.
Should we throw one?
We can.
We can.
If you're in it, yes.
It's
You're
one
like,
of those
tempt
things
me.
where it's an amazing community opportunity where it allows people. It's very.
Yeah, but
it's
you're saying the misconception is like
the misconception is that it's. Oh God,
Yeah.
I don't think there are any misconceptions. I mean, do people have misconceptions?
I
about
just
me?
gave one.
Yeah.
So
This
the
is
answer
why
is
you
yeah.
wanted the questions in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why I wanted the questions in advance because
But
I'm
I
like
said these
but
ones. I was
really?
like these ones are like my at the end of the episode. Like these are my questions. that I
Yeah.
ask. But I feel
Creativity.
like we got.
I think people think that like, oh, I would say one of the greatest misconceptions about being a fashion designer is
There
that
we
I
go.
dress well every day.
Ooh,
that's
that's
a
a good
good
one because she
one.
looks like shit.
Ouch. Okay, no, but like, you know, there are just some days where it's like I'm constantly creating that it's like it's hard to just not want to throw on a pair of like basketball shorts and a giant
Yeah, but you do
t-shirt.
everything like with flair. You have personal style. So
Yeah,
no,
you
of course.
can
everything's
wear
like
a trash
put
bag and look
together.
gorgeous. But
Yeah.
Okay, sorry to cut you guys off.
Yeah,
but
no,
we gotta
please.
keep going. Hottest job you've ever had?
I think when I was doing misinformation research for the government, that was pretty sexy.
That's so hot. I
like
love
it
that.
was very like everyone's a spy vibes, like very like I was researching, like professionally researching conspiracy theories and then like writing reports on like how they were impacting people's bottom lines.
I feel like that is a podcast episode in itself.
No, it's
Perceived
it was sexual
sexiness,
fire.
though, or like actual sexiness?
Either.
So when I was working, so I don't know have you ever seen the show My Unorthodox Life? I worked for a woman who wanted to create a Netflix show, and I followed her around the world.
Wait, but that's like that show. Like they became really famous. The daughter's a lesbian.
Yes.
So that's
That's how I know it because the daughter's a lesbian.
Isabella's former boss.
The lesbian daughter is like super, super nice and super, super smart.
Well, I mean, she's a lesbian. She must be.
So true.
Of course.
So, that does not mean anything.
I know. It never
You're
really,
like, never mind.
never really even factored. But yes, they were definitely like, she was definitely one of the coolest people. But no,
Slay.
so it was a very
I know nothing about this reality show. I just know that the daughter's a lesbian.
Yeah. So I worked for this woman who it's like
She traveled around the world
She
with her,
traveled around
basically.
the world and I with her, and that was pretty cool to like do that
This was pre-Netflix show.
This was pre and then during filming as well. So yeah, I just
Hot.
am not, I was like doing a lot of this because I got advice from one of my colleagues was like, do not be on the show. You don't know what it could become.
Yeah. I
And he's
mean,
like, you don't know who
it's
you'll
scary
be.
with reality TV.
We've been on reality TV before.
Yeah.
What have you been on?
So I don't know if you know this. So like Tiff, you know Tiff Barrow, one of our
You've
models?
you always talk about Tiff, but I don't know Tiff.
So they did a TV show
Yeah.
in Miami where they were a matchmaker. And one of the episodes, they wanted to feature her as a model. And so she asked us to put on an entire photo shoot
Yep.
in Miami for her.
We booked at a skate park
We booked
and
at
we
a-
shot at the skate park
We,
with a crew of 30 people.
And how'd it go?
it was great.
Was it a twin campaign?
It was a twin
was a
campaign.
twin
It was the
campaign.
puffer coats
It
and
was-
bikinis
yeah,
campaign.
puffer
I
coats
think
and
this
bikinis.
episode will come out around the timeline of the twin campaign that I'm in,
I think it actually will.
It actually totally will.
because this will
You
come
saw,
out.
I
in a
showed
few
you like,
early
weeks.
I showed you like
September.
one photo and then you
Yeah.
could see all the tiny little widgets.
Spoiler, I'm going to be in a twin campaign.
You've asked me so many times. It was like, I was like,
If
whenever
you
there was
didn't-
an opportunity where I was like, I can absolutely make this happen. The minute I could make
You
it
look
happen, I made it
amazing.
happen.
That was also the
You were the
earliest
first
I've woken up
person.
in like months, and
That's
I was like,
hilarious.
but I could not say no to this.
No, you can't.
But you know what? When you're a model,
'Cause
you
you
have
love
to get up
twin.
that early.
I'm not a model, just
Yeah,
for you
are.
guys.
You are a model.
If you could give one piece of advice to the listeners for any of the above, whether it's getting into fashion, getting into starting your own business, or going into business with your sibling, you can pick one or all or whatever.
Oh, there's so many isms that we've created since we started Twin.
I think my recommendation to people that want to go into business, because I feel like that's something that I've done over and over again. So I feel like pretty poised to give that piece of advice. Not that everyone should go into business for themselves, because like there's a lot of reasons not to take that risky step and do that. But I really believe that a lot of people think that they have to like torture themselves and make things perfect to build something and launch it. So when we were starting, I had a ton of experience starting businesses, and it was Isabella's first. And she was obsessed with perfection. And I would say over and over and over again,
Do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
You've both given me that advice.
Because it's so true. At the beginning, it's so hard when you're trying to define who you are and what you're trying to create to like, you really do want to present like the best version of yourself so that like when you present to whoever you're presenting to, they walk away thinking that you're doing the thing that you're hoping you want to achieve.
But the
Like,
truth is that perfection is a moving target. And so if you wait for perfect, you're never going to do it. And doing it is how you know if it's worthwhile or not. So we always say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and actually just do it. You're never going to figure out if it works unless you try it.
I have a feeling that's going to be the soundbite that I post on Instagram.
I mean, like, was it not going to be like Miss Brilliant over here?
How about you, Izzy?
The best advice that I can give, which I think John Galliano gave to a group of young hopefuls, is don't ever give up on the dream. Don't ever give up on the dream, because I think that if you dream it and you put yourself forward, when you come into a position of power, you'll know exactly what to do.
And if you don't give up on it, I feel like too, like even if it's a side road, because like, you know,
Yeah.
you mentioned like maybe you have to make money somehow, whatever. Just like keeping it in mind is like what always keeps you like ready and prepared.
Yeah, but like I think being passionate and having an open heart, like, you know, I think especially in New York City, we're so jaded, and I think sometimes it can be so difficult. You should like believe in yourself, you know.
I mean, that's the most true thing ever. I mean, I'm sure it goes for you as well, Chloe. Like, it's so hard. Living your dream is actually so fucking hard. Like, it's really, really hard. Not
Nobody-
only because it's actually hard to do, but it's hard to keep the dream alive when everything is flying
Also, like
at
no
you.
one's telling you like what to do.
There's
So
no
that's
roadmap to
scary.
success. Like, you can read 100 business case studies. You can go to Harvard Business School and your business can fail.
But that's why it's important to like meet people and then hold on to them.
100%.
The people that you can ask questions. Okay, well, where can we all find you
So you can visit us at 219 Mott Street. That's Mott Street
in New
between
York City?
Prince Spring. Yeah, we're in
In
Nolita.
Well, the truth is that we have like, we sell online, we sell on Instagram, but the most important place that you can find us is our shop in Soho in New York. It's incredible. We were literally just had Chloe working from there like what?
Yeah,
a week
no,
ago?
I love to just like post up on my laptop, but also like they'll help you like style the things and like really
Yeah.
make sure that things feel good and correct on your
Totally.
and like the way that they'll feel best on your body. So
Do you know
it's
what's
always such
funny?
a pleasant experience.
It's not just an IRL thing though.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't see, you didn't meet me before we started to do all that, but like I've had people in my apartment,
Yep.
I've done virtual, like we're really available to people. I really care whether or not they've actually bought something that's like they're going to wear and they're going to love this. So like people can reach out to us in any way that they feel comfortable.
I would say
to get
like
that support.
Instagram is probably the most direct in terms of if you physically
Email.
aren't in New York, like our Instagram at twin.that'swhatIneed is the place to
You'll
get
be
us.
tagged.
Yeah.
You know that Alicia obviously manages our DMs and that she's
I
like,
do.
I am organized and you
I'm
can
fastidious.
find the resources there. So that's where you should
Period.
go.
Well, Slay, well, thanks so much for coming. Be my first duo on the
Woohoo.
pod.
Oh Lord.
Oh my God.
We're
we'll
the
catch y'all
worst
next
twins.
week.
We're the worst twins on the face of the planet Earth.
Well, you did a great job.
I don't know
Oh,
about
thanks.
that. We'll see.
Thanks, y'all.